A right royal intervention. Chuck takes on the Donald, subtly of course. King Charles III in Canada. A very big deal this. It all happened yesterday, May 27th, 2025. His first speech from the throne as king. The first by any monarch there in 70 long years. This wasn't your grandma's royal garden party. Oh no. This had, like a very complicated, very polite, diplomatic onion. Or perhaps a particularly passive-aggressive trifle. Now, why all the fuss, you ask? One word, Trump? Okay, fine. Two words, President Trump. It seems he's got his eye on Canada. And not in a friendly, hey there, neighbor, can I borrow some maple syrup kind of way. More like that's a lovely, sovereign nation you've got there. Be a real shame if someone assimilated it kind of way. The man's about as subtle as a foghorn. In a library, during a nap. Time for a quick history lesson. Queen Elizabeth II, Charles' mum, did something similar in Grenada way back in 1985, right after a US-led invasion, no less. It's the monarchy's classic understated way of saying, ahem, this one's ours. So our Charles isn't exactly reinventing the royal playbook, he's just expertly navigating it down a very bumpy, Trump-shaped pothole with all the grace of a swan, a very determined swan. Just picture the scene, if you will. Horse-drawn carriages gleaming in the Ottawa sun, an immaculate honor guard standing ramrod straight, a booming 21-gun salute echoing through the capital. All very proper, all very traditional, all very monarchical. Meanwhile, just south of that famously long border, one can only imagine a certain Truth Social account was practically incandescent. The contrast, utterly delicious. Like poutine at a Buckingham Palace state dinner. Unexpected, but brilliant. So, King Charles stands up. He addresses Parliament in both eloquent French and English. Very smooth, very bilingual, very Canadian of him. He speaks of unprecedented dangers and uncertainties. The kind the world hasn't seen since World War II, apparently. He acknowledges Canada faces unique challenges. You don't say, Charles. One of those challenges just happens to have a penchant for gold lettering and an alarming interest in redrawing maps. And then the royal zinger. Canada, he declared, is strong and free. Yes, straight from their own national anthem. Oh, the audacity. He didn't explicitly say, Donald, you colossal orange blimp, kindly keep your unsolicited statehood offers to yourself. But honestly, did he even need to? The message was crystal clear. He also emphasized the vital need to protect Canadians and their sovereign rights. Read between the stately lines, folks. It's not exactly rocket science or, advanced geopolitics. But wait, there was more. He lauded values like democracy, pluralism, the rule of law, self-determination and freedom. All those lovely foundational things, the things that make a country, and not, for instance, a northern territory ripe for the plucking. He even pledged to address the fentanyl crisis and to protect Quebec's vibrant French language and culture. Covering all the Canadian bases, this king, very thorough. And who orchestrated this royal power play? None other than Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. He's the one who invited Charles. A rather shrewd move politically. Carney, you see, recently won an election, running on a platform heavily emphasizing, you guessed it, Canadian sovereignty and a firm thanks, but no thanks to Trump's advances. So the King's speech? Perfect regal backup, a royal stamp of approval on not becoming America's very large, very polite hat. Carney must have been absolutely beaming. Let's talk about Trump's grand plan. It's called the Golden Dome, a US missile defense system. Sounds impressive, doesn't it? Shiny, protective, probably gold-plated, knowing him. The price tag for Canada to join this exclusive club, a cool $61 billion. And this is where it gets interesting, option B, Canada could just become the 51st US state. Then access to the Golden Dome would be absolutely free. What a bargain. Like choosing between a kick in the teeth or a slightly less painful, but more humiliating, kick elsewhere. This Golden Dome isn't exactly a budget item. We're talking $175 billion to start, with some projections soaring to a mind-boggling $542 billion over 2 decades. Trump has already asked Congress for an initial $25 billion just to get the gilded ball rolling. It's a huge, beautiful dome. The best dome, naturally. And Canada, they can either fork over the billions or prepare for a new flag, with a few more stars, and almost certainly a very large, possibly golden, eagle. Remember Prime Minister Carney's tense little chat with Trump? Carney, bless his sovereign heart, stated quite plainly, Canada is not for sale. Trump's reported response? a smirk, and the ominous words, "time will tell." Frankly, chilling. This isn't new either. Trump has a history. He once mockingly called former PM Justin Trudeau Governor Trudeau. He's clearly been eyeing up Canadian real estate for some time. Probably thinks the CN Tower needs a giant gold T on top. So how did Trump react to King Charles's polite but firm defense of Canada? Predictably, of course. His Truth Social account practically exploded. Canada would be so much richer if it just joined the US. His missile dome is the greatest thing since sliced bread, which he probably also wants to tariff. And naturally, threats of tariffs on Canadian products. It's his go-to move. Stub your toe? Tariff. Economy faltering? Tariff. A king defends another nation's sovereignty. You guessed it. More tariffs. Back in the Canadian Parliament, King Charles finishes his speech, and what happens? A standing ovation. You could almost hear the collective sigh of relief. He gets it, they were probably all thinking. He actually gets it. Finally, someone with a crown and considerable global influence saying exactly what they've all been desperately feeling and delivering the message with such splendid, understated British shade. They really are masters of that particular art form. And what about the Canadian public? Reports suggest the King's visit was a significant morale booster. And you can see why, can't you? Imagine your rather large, exceptionally noisy neighbour constantly suggesting improvements to your lovely house. Improvements that mainly involve him knocking it down and building a new, much larger wing for himself. Then a dapper, well-spoken king pops round for tea and declares your house perfectly charming just as it is. You'd feel pretty darn good, wouldn't you? But Canada isn't just basking in the royal afterglow. Oh no, they're taking action. Real, tangible steps. They're reinvesting in their armed forces. They're diversifying trade, looking for new friends on the global stage, building new alliances, particularly with the European Union. There's talk of a Rearm Europe defence procurement project. Prime Minister Carney has been racking up the air miles, official trips to London and Paris. Notably, not to Mar-a-Lago, it's called strategic independence, baby, the smart play. So what's the big takeaway from all this royal rigmarole? Well, this speech, delivered on May 28, 2025, mattered a great deal. It was a significant moment in defending Canadian independence, a clear statement about their sovereignty. And here's a fun fact. Trump is expected to attend the G7 summit in Canada next month, June 2025. That could be awkward. After the King's rather pointed remarks, Canada's message is louder than ever. They're polite, they love their hockey, they make excellent maple syrup, but they are absolutely unequivocally not for sale. Period. Full stop. Huh?